Hey everybody, this is Rustin Rose of Metalholic Magazine and Mojo Radio, and here with us, the lovely and uber-talented Jill Janus of Huntress. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm thawing out from this weekend's video shoot in the Mojave Desert, so I'm warming up. We're out there shooting the video for Spell Eater, actually.
Right. That was the first thing I was going to ask you about. You guys have been so busy. I think you also recently did the Eight of Swords video, so tell us a little bit about both of those.
Sure. Well, we shot the Eight of Swords video last year in September, I believe.
Oh, gotcha.
That was August or early September. But we shot that video prior to being signed, actually, and that was part of the reason why we did get a record deal with Napalm, was that video caught a lot of attention, and then that kind of catapulted us to where we are now. And it's time for the next video to come on out. The debut album, Spell Eater, hits the U.S. here on May 8th.
Right.
So we decided it was time. I feel like that's an important element to Huntress is showing videos and having that visual. I feel it's like vital to what we are.
Right. Clearly you guys are going to be a very visual band. But you were telling us, though, I mean, you were freezing your tuchus off out there. Tell us a little bit about shooting the video and what we can expect for it.
Oh, Lord. It was really the most difficult project I've done in my life. We were, first of all, we're hustling to get out of L.A. We're joining up with Pagan Fest on Wednesday. We're leaving on Wednesday, doing a few shows on the way out to Pagan Fest to the East Coast. And so this was honestly the last possible weekend we could do this. And of course, what do we get? We get rain and snow in the Mojave Desert. So, that's it. So we were like, what should we do? Should we just book, a studio here in L.A., do it in a warehouse? And our director, Simon Chan of Artificial Army, who did Eight of Swords, just was like, no, we have to take this to the desert. And he's like, if it's going to rain, it's going to rain. I just need you guys to be strong and do this, because that we need to take it to the next level. It's got to be more epic than Eight of Swords, and the only way to achieve that is with these real landscapes. We went out to the desert. Saturday we got there. It was raining. I'm standing in virtually nothing with heels on in the middle of the desert with the boys all in black cloaks, and we're just walking through the desert, and it's raining and hailing and snowing. And then, this is the interesting thing where I just feel, it was all worth it as well. A huge rainbow appears just in the middle of the desert. And the same exact thing happened when we were shooting Eight of Swords with the same director. Out of nowhere, it started raining in the woods when we shot Eight of Swords, and this rainbow appeared. And I just looked at the entire crew, and I said, the goddess has blessed us. And I was like, she's nuts, But the goddess did bless us, and it did happen a second time with this video. That's just, for me, a sign that, we're doing the right thing. So even though it was brutal, the landscape and the, it's just going to be breathtaking, really. And so I couldn't be happier now that I'm home, but when I was there, I actually cried. It was so cold.
Well, and let's be honest, at least so far, you haven't worn a lot of clothing with the Huntress stuff, so...
No, and I don't intend to. But now that I know I can rock near nudity in the snow, there's really no reason.
There you go. So, and we're going to talk a little bit about that, too. And I want to talk about the debut album and all things Huntress. But let's start with you first, because as you've said yourself, who you are, your look, your sexuality is going to draw a lot of people in, and then it'll be the music that hangs on to them. So give us a little backstory on Jill Janus.
Sure. Well, I'll take you back to when I was born. Basically, I grew up on a really beautiful farm in the Catskill Mountains up in New York, and was raised in a really eccentric family. So from the time I was, just a wee little gal, I was always encouraged to follow my dreams and also to follow my secret sight. So that's where I first was encouraged by my family to really, embrace being pagan, embrace being a witch. And then, my mother discovered I had a voice, and she started taking me to auditions. It turns out I was born with a 4-octave coloratura soprano voice, which is the kind that you should be able to break glass with. I'm still trying. It hasn't worked yet, but I won't stop trying. So, I was born with this voice and started doing opera, and then it kind of just blossomed into, traveling the world a little bit when I was a teenager. But at that time, it's really always been heavy metal. I've always wanted to be able to sing that. I even was in a couple bands in high school that, even as Misfits cover band, it just always felt like opera wasn't dark enough. So, fast forward, I got a scholarship to college and started working in New York City in nightlife, mostly because I was broke and, just out of financial desperation. So, that's kind of this path that I've taken has always been leading me to this point. I believe all my opera training, even like ballet that I did when I was younger, everything has given me the training and the stance and the stamina to be able to perform night after night without losing the voice. It's really a very dedicated life to heavy metal.
Absolutely, and we are a judgmental, brutal crew. If you've got it, we love it, but if you're off, you're not bringing it, we'll be all over you. So
Absolutely, as you should be, and that's one of the fun things about being part of Huntress is the challenge and winning people over. There's a lot of misconceptions and preconceptions about Huntress, especially as me being a female, and it's just really fun to win people over. And like Pearl Harbor, you didn't see me coming, and now you're fucked.
Well, and now you said it a minute ago. You sang opera as a child, but how did that sort of lead you into metal? Was there a song, an album, or a band that created a moment of epiphany for you, or?
Really, I feel that I was a little skater nerd in high school, so I was skateboarding a bunch in between, going to vocal lessons and doing shows, and also being in a coven as well. So I had this very strange little upbringing, but most of all, Suicidal Tendencies was my first love. I fell in love with ST, and that was probably that aggression that they had in that music was really kind of a driving force for me to want to explore more metal.
And then were there certain bands that were sort of influential on you in terms of developing your sound and your feel for it, or?
Sure, absolutely. Well, I do have to give props to one woman, and generally speaking, I don't relate to women vocally at all. I prefer to be known. I prefer to aim for being sexless vocally. So that's what I strive for, is being sexless and not really having to be associated with, either sex per se, but if I had to choose one, I'd prefer to be associated with the men, just because I think that they just deliver a harder performance, a more aggressive performance. But it would be Ann Wilson of Heart, who was a big inspiration on me growing up, and her effortlessness and powerful voice really, kind of shaped the way that I wanted to deliver. And at first when you're a girl and you're growing up on a farm, listening to old Heart records is pretty cool. So she definitely inspired me a lot growing up. And as far as male singers, of course Rob Halford, Judas Priest, he's a god. And even for now, the new style that I'm trying to sing, I don't want to necessarily be just a Nuwabum band. I don't want to be a throwback. So for me, it's always challenging, and I want to always push the vocals. I don't want to just be power metal. I love black metal. It's my favorite genre of metal, and I love death metal, and I love thrash. So we're really, when people talk about us, we're getting the melodic death thrash label, which is great. People are getting it. But for me, vocally, I like to push myself. So even getting the lower capability and the growl without sounding like pushing it, I really have studied recently Jared Warren of Big Business. I don't know if you know who that is, or he works with the Melvins. Yeah, I always think, people don't know who he is. He's kind of LA local guy, but I've studied his voice a lot just on Big Business recordings, and he has this way of getting that grit but still being able to be melodic.
Right.
So I find like certain people that I want to emulate. Freddie Mercury has also been someone that I've dissected many, many nights, and he's not metal, but the way that he can control it, it's not only about just screaming and barking your head off. There's so much control and dynamics that go into everything that I do. So I'm very, very cautious about what I can deliver live. I would never record something unless I could perform it live.
Well, there's no question that you've got the pipes for it. And you got a very unique voice, even though you're operatically trained. It's more of a traditional metal voice, even though I abhor labels.
Yeah, it's annoying. It's super annoying, but you got to play the game. I'd rather be labeled, melodic death thrash than power metal. Not saying I don't love some power metal, but I just know that we're more than that. So we really try to. We have a very distinct sound, and it comes into play with the boys being like ultimate stoners, and I come from a very interesting, more mainstream approach in my previous projects, like even with Chelsea Girls, which I was in prior to Huntress,
right,
which is this all-female cover band, and then the boys are coming from the underground metal world and in a band for years touring, playing shitty venues. And so when we merged, essentially we became friends. I just met them in the scene, and they heard my demos. I handed them the Huntress demos, hoping, I really like your band, Professor. They heard it, and they said it was like Iron Maiden light. And I don't think they really expected for me to want to be able to, get into like more death metal style of vocals here and there, sprinkling it in. I'm not claiming to be that type of singer, but I'm finding it's really easy to do for me, and I think it's just a lot of it's because of my former training. So
right.
I definitely want to, push myself as much as I can without, hurting myself.
Yeah, absolutely. We don't want to damage that voice. And I mean, when I listened to it, what I heard was just a great traditional metal band with a lot of flavors, if you will, of the various subgenres that are out there. And it's just really about good metal, and that's all that really matters, and that's all that should matter.
It is indeed. Yep, absolutely.
Now, most women in metal try, or at least they say they try, to play down their looks and their sexuality. You sort of embrace it.
Absolutely, I do. And, I will get shit from other women for that, and I really don't care. And the reason why I choose to do that is because, one, I'm a pagan. I love nature. I love nudity. I grew up in a very, it's like I said, eccentric environment, and I've never been ashamed of that aspect, especially growing up in theater as a young kid. You see people naked running around backstage all the time, so I've never shied away from that. The other reason why I choose to do it is, simply this. It's just that, it's a really good way to draw you closer to the flame. Once you're in the fire, I'm going to burn you alive with voice. It's fun for me. It's not something that I don't feel I can deliver upon. I'm not going to be out in a song on the stage. I have beautiful costumes that are being created for me right now, and it's not about that. There's not even a lot of nudity in my show, or not like showing my tits or anything like that. It's just I'm provocative, I suppose, and just like maybe showing a little bit of cleavage or wearing something tight that gets them talking, which is kind of mind-boggling that it's still an issue. I've been talking to a lot of people lately, and that always comes up. And of course, that's fine. That's a valid question. I'm happy to talk about it. But when it comes down to it, I just don't give a fuck what other people think, and I just do what I do. This is what I do. I sing heavy metal. I sing it really well, and if I'm going to use my looks to try to gain more fans from other areas, maybe not just metal, that's fine with me. It's not that, I'm here to change the world, or I'm just doing what I do. This is what I was born to do. It's my purpose. It doesn't really bother me at all. It's just human nature, I just look at it like, this is very, very human, and it's nothing that bothers me. I'm still going to keep doing what I'm doing.
Well, and metal is a very, we talk about all the rebel part of it, the outlaw misfits, whatever you want to call it, but it's also had a very passionate and sexual component to it. So
absolutely, and you throw the occult into that, and then you really have something cooking. So it's, most of our first Spell Eater, it's just drenched in occult imagery. So it's, again, part of being a witch and tying it all in with heavy metal and sorcery. It's a fantasy for people to see that type of character, and I plan on delivering that type of show, very theatrical. I'm actually working with a magician now on fire tricks. So, I'm planning on taking the stage show to the next level. I do get inspired by King Diamond and Merciful Fate and Alice Cooper, and I enjoy spitting blood. So this is the kind of thing that it all makes sense once we get more visibility and people realize that this is I'm not worried what people think. I just really want to fulfill my purpose and do the best possible show and write the best album that I could possibly write, and I feel that I did that with Spell Eater.